Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I'm your host, William Tapley, also known as the Third Eagle of the Apocalypse and the co-prophet of these end times. I read a very interesting article a couple of days ago on LifeSite News about Pope Francis opposing Donald Trump once again. And the article appeared in La Civiltà Cattolica, written by a couple of friends of his, and they really blast Catholics and evangelicals who work together to defeat Hillary Clinton in the last election. And that is evidently a cardinal sin in the newly taken over Vatican. Anyway, let me read this for you because it is very interesting. And I'll show you the cover, and maybe you can see the headline there. Vatican Reviewed magazine accuses Catholics of hate for supporting Trump. Would you believe that? And the dateline is Rome, July 13th. This is LifeSite News, and the article is by Pete Belkinski, and he did a good job. Beklinski, maybe I didn't pronounce that right. Conservative Catholics in the United States have formed an ecumenism of hate, with evangelical Protestants in their united support for President Trump and his policies, claimed an Italian Jesuit magazine that is reviewed by the Vatican prior to publication. That means that Pope Bergoglio approved this article. I'm sure he did. This is right down his alley. The article published July 13th in La Civiltà Cattolica claims that some U.S. Catholic conservatives have built ties with fundamentalist evangelicals for political purposes that evince enormous differences with Pope Francis. Now, Pope is not concerned about ties between evangelicals and Catholics only if they support Donald Trump. Appealing to the values of fundamentalism, a strange form of surprising ecumenism is developing between evangelical fundamentalists and Catholic integralists, whatever they are, brought together by the same desire for religious influence in the political sphere. The article states, so evidently religious influence in the political sphere is a no-no, according to Pope Francis, or Cardinal Bergoglio, as I should say, unless, of course, it's his influence. Some who profess themselves to be Catholic express themselves in ways that until recently were unknown in their tradition and using tones much closer to evangelicals. There is a well-defined world of ecumenical convergence between sectors that are paradoxically competitors when it comes to confessional belonging. This meeting over shared objectives happens around such themes as abortion, same-sex marriage, religious education in schools, and other matters generally considered moral or tied to values. Well, I think it's great that the unborn finally have a voice in government. We are not getting much of that from the Vatican. Both evangelical and Catholic integralists, whatever that is, condemn traditional ecumenism, well, I wouldn't say that, and yet promote an ecumenism of conflict that unites them in the nostalgic dream of a theocratic type of state, it adds. In other words, Pope Francis wants a separation of church and state, and that's the exact same goal as the one world government, and he is making a goal of his one world religion as housed in the taken over Vatican. And this article continues. The author of the report are two of Pope Francis's close confidants, Editor-in-Chief Jesuit Father Antonio Spadaro and Marcello Figueroa, an Argentine Presbyterian pastor who leads his country's edition of the Vatican newspaper L'Osservatore Romano. So as I say, he doesn't mind Catholics and Protestants getting together as long as they don't support Trump. Spadaro and Figueroa state that the most dangerous prospect for this strange ecumenism is a xenophobic and Islamophobic vision that wants walls and purifying deportations. The word ecumenism transforms into a paradox, into an ecumenism of hate, the writers state. No, my dear Vatican employees of the false prophet, you get hate when you invite Islamists and jihadists into your country. Clearly, there is an enormous difference between these concepts and the ecumenism employed by Pope Francis. With various Christian bodies and other religious confessions, his is an ecumenism that moves under the urge of inclusion, peace, encounter, and bridges. Not really. If you want peace, you want to go to countries like Poland, where they ban Islamists and jihadists. And this article concludes, Wall Street Journal Vatican correspondent Francis Rocca said that it is unlikely that the authors would have written the article without the Pope's approval, presumed or explicit. Absolutely. Nothing appears in this magazine unless phony Francis approves of it. As I say, what he wants is a separation of church and state, just as all the other one-worlders people want. And we see this in Daniel, in that statue in Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the feet of iron and clay. The iron and the clay, which do not join together, represent the one world government and the one world religion. And who defeats the one world government and the one world religion? Well, if you read Isaiah and Micah, you know that it is Donald Trump who is going to defeat the one world government and religion, the gates of brass and the doors of iron. The stone cut from the mountain by Jesus. He is the stone cutter. He's not the stone. The stone is the remnant Catholic Church. And Donald Trump is going to become a Catholic. Last week, one of my subscribers wrote to me and said, well, how can Donald Trump become a Catholic and oppose the Pope? Well, I said, he will be just like me. I'm a practicing Catholic, and I oppose this Pope very much. And as always, if you would like more information about my ministry here on YouTube, visit my thirdeaglemedia.com website.